If you have ever been part of a website project, you know there's this one question. It comes up first every single time. It's the one that can totally make or break your budget and really set the tone for the entire project. So today, we're going to get to the bottom of it.
And there it is, the big one, right? Everyone wants a simple number, just a date they can circle on the calendar and plan around. But, as you probably figured out already, the answer you usually get is, well, it's less than satisfying.
I know. Hearing it depends is just, it's so frustrating. But here's the thing, it's the truth. The real question isn't if it depends, it's what does it depend on. So, okay, let's dive into that and really crack the code on these website timelines.
And this slide right here, this shows you exactly why that answer is so vague. I mean, just look at the massive range we're talking about. A simple little site, maybe a few pages, we're looking at a couple of months. But a complex e-commerce platform, that could easily take a year, maybe even more. It's really like the difference between building a small cabin in the woods versus a custom-built mansion.
So if we're going to give you a real answer, we first have to understand the key factors, the big variables, that decide where your project is going to land on that huge spectrum. So the first and honestly the biggest factor is just the scope. Are we talking about a simple 15-page site? Or are we talking about a massive one with 1,500 pages? Do you need special features, like a portal for your customers to log into, or maybe some interactive tools? And every single time you add something like e-commerce, or you need to integrate with another system like Salesforce or MailChimp, you're adding these new layers of planning, development, and testing. Every one of those layers adds time to the clock.
Now here's what's really interesting. The timeline depends just as much on you and your team as it does on the designers and developers. Are your goals crystal clear? Are the important people in your company actually available to give feedback quickly? And here's the big one. Is your content ready to go? This is, without a doubt, the single biggest cause of delays in most projects.
And this, right here, this is the key takeaway. You can have the most brilliant team on the planet ready to build, but if there are no words or images to put on the pages, the entire project just grinds to a halt. Seriously. That's why starting your copywriting and your photography from day one is probably one of the smartest moves you can make.
All right, so now that we know the big factors, let's actually look at the journey itself. A professional website redesign isn't some chaotic free-for-all. It's a very structured process with clear, predictable stages.
Every single project, whether it's big or small, it moves through these 4 key phases. Think of it like a roadmap that takes you all the way from just an idea in your head to a fully functioning website out in the world.
Okay, phase 1. This is the blueprint. This is where you figure out who your audience is, what the site's structure should be, and exactly what kind of technical features you're going to need. This stage, it is absolutely non-negotiable. Getting the strategy right from the very beginning prevents incredibly expensive and time-consuming changes later on.
Next up, that blueprint starts to come to life in the design and development phases. So designers create the actual look and feel from those initial wireframes, and then the developers, they write all the code that turns those static pictures into a living, breathing website that you can interact with. And finally, you hit phase 4, testing and launch. This is where every link gets clicked, every form gets tested, and every single page is checked to make sure it's a flawless release.
Okay, let's get really practical. We've talked about the factors and the phases, so now let's apply all that and look at some actual real-world timeline estimates. This table is such a great way to see how all those factors play out in the real world. A small business site? Yeah, it can be done in a couple of months, but you can see the main hurdle is often just getting the content ready. E-commerce? Well, that takes much longer because of all the complexity with product catalogs and payment security. And for those big enterprise sites, with thousands of pages and so many layers of approvals, yeah, a year is not uncommon at all.
So you might be asking, is there anything you can actually do to speed things up without cutting corners and sacrificing quality? And the answer is absolutely. Let's look at how you can get your project into the fast lane.
So the key here is to avoid the 3 classic project killers. First up, scope creep. You know what I'm talking about, when new feature requests just keep popping up out of nowhere. You have to manage that with a clear process. Second, we've already hit on this one hard, content bottlenecks. Start it early. And finally, decision delays. You've got to avoid design by committee. Give one single person the final say.
Okay, now for one last pro tip. You've got your timeline estimated, you've planned for how to avoid delays, but then you should add this number to it. What's it for? It's your buffer. And listen, this isn't a sign of bad planning. It's the mark of experienced, realistic planning.
Things just happen. A key person goes on vacation unexpectedly. A third-party tool is way more complicated than you thought. Building in a 15 to 20% buffer just means these little surprises don't completely derail your launch.
And ultimately, all of this brings us to the most important question of all. The obsession with speed, it's natural, I get it, but a website redesign is a long-term investment. Taking the right amount of time to really plan the strategy, create the content, and build it correctly, that's going to pay off for years to come. Because the real goal isn't just to be fast, it's to be successful. Thanks for joining us for this explainer.